let's go ahead and talk about what's going on with the house. Okay, so for the house, you're gonna just follow the instructions there. Okay, you're gonna go ahead and get your 4mm by 60mm dowels. Stick those in. You're gonna need 3 of those. Stick those into the main the main plate for the hydraulics. If you're doing hydraulic or alley, just make sure that you print the right one. There is 2 different versions. The hydraulic main plate is the difference between that is going to be the mounting for the body here. I believe. Let me just make sure. Yeah, I think it's for the holes inside there. It's weird. It was super bent right here. I don't know. I think that this was in the sun. Anyways, really hasn't affected anything. All right, so once you guys go ahead and get those dowels in, then we'll go ahead and get our rear plate in place. All right, so that I'm just gonna. Okay, that's good. So get our rear plate in place, and that just gets pushed in, right? So what you want to really do is you want to actually, before you do that, is add some glue. All right, and we'll do that because I want this to stay. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just add a little bit of glue on this outside here, right? We'll go over that hole. You don't need much. Just go with like a little line here, and then again hit that outside. All right, so it looks something like that. Hopefully you guys can see it. And we'll go ahead and get it into position and press it in. All right, so you want to make sure that there's the gaps are the same on both sides. I probably should have filed one edge down, but don't worry about that. The glue will kind of fill it in. So I'm just kind of applying some pressure here just to get that to stay. And that looks pretty good to me. All right, so once you get that glued in, go ahead and move on to the arm pivot. The arm pivot, just follow the instructions. You get 6 screws. What are they? The M3 by 12mm self-tapping. Go ahead and get those in for the arm pivot. All right, and then before you start doing anything in the house, make sure you get your motor in here. All right, so let's just go to that portion. When does it want the motor in? Okay, no, we'll do that sooner. All right, so once you get the arm pivot in, go ahead and get your worm gear motor and your motor mount and get that installed. Underneath this motor mount, there's going to be a spot for another 3mm bearing. All right, so with that 3mm bearing, just put it in place and then go ahead and slide your long shaft motor over it and then mount that bad boy in there. Once you get that mounted in, you just go ahead and start grabbing your body panels and getting those screwed in. Those are M3 by, I use M3 by 10. And you're gonna need 4 for this panel here, and then 3 for four for the black panel as well. So 8 in total, and then this panel here gets glued in. And I actually waited until I got this side screwed, and then I glued this portion on, because it kind of sits just like that on top of this the motor mount, and then I went and got this into position. That way I can keep this kind of relatively straight for this guy, and you can see it kind of looks pretty darn good there. So that would be it for the body here. Just let me make sure. Yeah, that's it for the body. So we'll set that aside. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the arm. And then with the arm, just follow the instructions. Glue it together. I do believe there's some dowels. Yes, there's the arm pins. Those are going to be for guides, just to excuse me, just for alignment. Okay, so you're gonna have 3 pieces per arm. You're gonna have, let's see, and there's gonna be different. This is gonna be the hydraulic arms, and then there's gonna be the alley, basically the alley electric arms. So depending on which model you're going with, that's what you're gonna print. All right, so what I ended up doing is before I glued both sides together, I glued these 2 parts together, this one and this one, and then I did the same thing with both, or the other side, and then I grabbed my arm pins and then applied glue and then pressed, and then that gave me my boom arm, and then the same thing with the stick arm. Just used the guides or the arm pins for to align it up, and then applied glue on one, and then pressed it, and then held it together. And that's how I got my arms glued together. And then you'll notice that you're gonna have 6 bearings for the stick arm, 1 bearing here, 1 bearing here, and 1 bearing for the bucket, and then the same thing on the other side. Okay, and then the boom only has bearings down here. Okay, so 2 3mm bearings on each, or excuse me, 1 3mm bearing on each side of this, and then your arms would be pretty much ready for installation. So once you get that done, it's wanting to put the arm on. It might be better for the hydraulic version to not do that and start getting all of your stuff lined up. But what I'm going to do for the sake of this video, actually, in the way that I would do it is I would wait to start messing with the arm. So just get the arm glued together, get all that done. We already talked about getting the house installed. Let's talk about the back part of the house. So let's set this arm down. So get our house back over here, and then we can talk about the back part of the house. So with this one, you're going to want to go ahead and start pressing in your bearings. You're going to do that with your doors as well. I know you guys are probably thinking like, man, there's a lot of bearing or magnets. Press my bearings. There's a lot of magnets in here, but this is such a small model. I didn't want to use hinges because number one, most of these parts are pretty thin, and number two, personally, I always break the hinges. I'm just a klutz like that. So I like the magnets. The magnets are real nice. Once you get them pressed in, it just kind of pops in just like that, and then pop it off. It just makes it really, really simple, and that's what I wanted to do. So that's how I did that. If you don't want to use any of these doors, you can just glue them on. It would not hurt. So once you get that done, how this goes on is goes in place, and then it gets 4 M2 by 10 millimeter self-tapping screws. We're gonna leave this off because we want to get all the hydraulics and stuff in there. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our house, and then we're gonna take our pre-built undercarriage. All right, and then, well, before we do anything with the house, is with the undercarriage, we're going to go ahead and get our slip ring. Go ahead and install your slip ring into the kingpin here. And I used 3 M2 by 8 millimeter self-tapping screws. Let me just double check that and make sure. Yeah, I didn't even put that in the instructions. So yeah, go ahead and get your slip ring installed. Get everything wired up. It doesn't really matter which color wires go where, as long as you're doing, what you do down here is essentially the same up here. So solder in your pieces, or your electrics down here. Okay, remember, your tracks are gonna have, each. This is 3 different channels. So your 2 wires are gonna go, from your actuator. Yeah, I did that, the black and red, and then the black and red up here has its own plug that I soldered on. So once you get your slip ring installed, go ahead and fish your wires up through here. If you want, you can add your plugs or your connectors, or you can just solder them straight to the ESC. It doesn't really matter how you do that. So once you fish that through and you get your slip ring installed, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and start fishing these connectors through the middle of our plate here. Alright, and then don't do what I just did and fish everything through without this bearing in place. You're gonna need your thrust bearing, the big one. Alright, so here's your thrust bearing. Go ahead and get this in place. And these don't come oiled or anything. I oiled mine up, both sides. You can kind of see they're almost sticking together. I just used some of this race oil, just skate bearing lubricant. Works pretty good. Alright, so get that placed. Now we'll go ahead and start fishing our wires through. Alright, once you get that fish through, we'll go ahead and pull the extra slack out, and then I'm going to tilt it to the side here, and I'm just going to get everything lined up. Alright, looks really good. You can also use your finger to kind of line it up down there. Alright, and then you can see, oops, yeah, really, really nice. It's not tightened down, so I don't want to spin it too crazy like. Let's go ahead and now the hardest part is going to be lining up this keen pin down here. So what we'll do is try and look through the holes here, maybe even stick one of these through. These are going to be the M2 by 12 millimeter. I'm going to go ahead and just stick one through and see where it's at on the bottom here. Should be able to see it. Oop, wow, almost forgot a bunch of other stuff. Gosh darn it. Pull the wires back out. It ain't gonna be able to turn if it don't got no gear. I'll set that to the side here. Alright. You wouldn't have to worry about this. I just didn't want to print another keen pin gear. So don't worry about that part there. So you're going to take your gear. This is going to be the keen pin gear. And this is just to eliminate any of the slop between the gear and the pinion gear. Unfortunately, there's still going to be slop in there because of the gearing in the gearing in these worm gear motors. And what I'm talking about is this right here. This is just the teeth in the gearbox of these worm gear motors, and there's that much slop. And unfortunately, there's a lot of that equates to a lot of slop in the house. But I tried to eliminate as much as I could with this gear here, and sure, it eliminated the slop between the pinion and the ring gear, but I just can't get rid of the slop inside of the gearbox, so it is what it is. I can live with it. Alright, so grab your pinion gear. So line that up. Get that pressed on. I'm going to press that on almost all the way up. I'm going to leave about 1 millimeter, maybe 2. Yeah, maybe 2 millimeter there. Alright, now we'll go ahead and get our wires fished through. Just make sure we don't have anything else. Alrighty. Okay, so now again, this is going to be the fun part. So now we already put our screw in right here just a little bit, right? So we have a little bit of that the tip protruding. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and line up the hole. I don't know if you guys can see it here. We're gonna try and line up one of these holes in the kingpin with that hole there. And I also got to try and get it lined up with the teeth in on the sprocket here. So I think I'm pushing the kingpin down. I'm gonna push up on the kingpin with my fingers here. All right, sorry. So I actually had to tighten this down. It was very loose. So we tighten the set screw down on there, and then we're gonna go ahead and let's see, get this back tight a little bit, shine the tip. Okay. So in theory, it should be somewhere right there. We're gonna try that here. Keep that. Looks like it's top of it. Push it down. Obviously, it's gonna be the most difficult part. I'm gonna fold it upside down. Get that bearing to sit in place there. I'm not sure why I can't get the gear in. There it is. It's super in place. So I got it all on. And now what I need to do is rotate this until I can get that ring here fall in. I think it's right here. And what I'm doing is when I tighten it down, I can see the plate. It moves up. The plate will move up a little bit if it's not on the hole. So I can see it's not on the hole. So what I'm going to do here is let's turn this a little bit. And we'll try it again. Nope. Moving the plate up. So we're going to keep going until we can find that hole. Might be somewhere right there. That feels good. So that felt like it grabbed. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna test it out on this other side, or the other hole here. Again, just look at the bottom. Feels really, really tight. So before I tighten this other one down, I'm gonna just test it. You go grab a battery real quick. So I'm just gonna plug it into my connector here. Beautiful. All right, so let's go ahead and get our last screw in. You need 3 of these M2 by 12s. Oh, there was already one in there. Okay. Everything's looking good, and I'm actually gonna line this up. So I'll grab just use this battery to do it. Alrighty, so that's getting the house on. All right, so now we know we have the bearing here, we have our bearings in here, the kingpin, and then our slip ring here. And you guys are probably wondering, why do you have so much extra wire? Well, I didn't want to cut the slip ring wire so short, and there's enough room in there for it to kind of get slammed in there. And then we got our plug here, so I just printed this because it's going to work out really well. But we could see here that with that pinion gear nice and tight, and then the kingpin gear, in a sense like an idler gear, really eliminated that slop. Like, I have no slop whatsoever, and which is, you know, it's pretty awesome to see. None whatsoever. And then the plate, there's no wobble in it. This thing is nice and stout. All right, so let's go ahead and get everything kind of buttoned up down here. So what I'm going to do is just going to start to kind of curl this up, and then we're going to shove it down inside that hole. You don't want to push too hard, because the slip ring wire can be a little brittle. All right, and I'm just going to grab my plug, and because I have to drill my holes, I'm just going to line it up the way I think it should be. Beautiful. All right, so I'm gonna line it up right there. Just grab like a Sharpie here and just make my hole marks. Okay. Put this in there. You know, I'm not gonna do it. Nobody doesn't hold you guys. I'm gonna tear into the button here. Get through. All right, nice and crisp. And then we can always test a little bit more with our battery here, just to do it, just to see if it goes all the way around fully. Sounds pretty good. A little hesitation on that one side. I think we're okay though. I think we're looking pretty good, guys.